Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive into a case that's both wild and unsettling.
Wild is a good word for it.
It is the legal troubles of Sean Diddy Combs.
That's right.
We're talking about some serious stuff here.
Yeah.
Assault, sex trafficking, even racketeering and all this from a guy who's, a total icon in music and entertainment.
Right. A hip-hop mogul built a whole empire.
Exactly.
And now he's facing this mountain of accusations.
And it is a mountain.
It is.
We're talking over 100 accusers, men and women, some adults, some were minors, when this stuff allegedly happened.
Yeah, the scope of this thing is just incredible.
It really is. So we dug into court documents, legal analysis, news reports, the whole 9 yards.
We wanted to get the full picture.
To figure out how things got so complicated for Diddy.
Yeah, because on the surface, it's a pretty jarring contrast, right?
It is.
You have this image of a guy throwing these lavish parties, shaping the sound of hip-hop, and then underneath it, all these really dark allegations that go back decades.
Decades? I mean, where do we even start with all this?
Well, I think the best place to start is with Cassie Ventura's lawsuit.
Okay, yeah, back in November 2023.
Right, that seemed to be like a turning point,
Yeah, like a crack in the facade.
Exactly, like a crack in the facade.
And it's important to remember, Ventura wasn't just some random person.
Oh, no, not at all.
She was signed to Bad Boy Records.
No. Combs Leo.
And they had a long-term relationship.
Right, a romantic relationship.
So you're talking about a serious power dynamic there.
Absolutely.
So what did Ventura's lawsuit actually say?
Well, she alleged years of abuse.
Okay.
And she specifically described these parties that Combs would allegedly host.
What parties?
They were called freak-offs.
Freak-offs. What went on at these freak-offs?
Well, that's where things get really disturbing.
Okay.
The lawsuit describes a pattern of coercion.
Coercion like what?
Like pressuring women into sexual acts, often fueled by drugs.
Drugs.
Yeah, and allegedly some of this was even filmed.
Filmed? Whoa, okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about parties gone wrong.
Yeah.
This is something more calculated.
Exactly. Potentially a way to control people, maybe even blackmail them.
That's chilling.
It is. And to add to that, Ventura's lawsuit also included claims of physical violence.
Physical violence?
Yeah. She even claimed that Combs destroyed rapper Kid Cudi's car in a fit of rage.
No way.
Yeah, it's all in the lawsuit. Now, in the end, this particular lawsuit was settled out of court.
Okay.
But it seemed to open the floodgates.
Because after Ventura came forward, there was a wave of new accusations.
A wave is right.
And we're not just talking recent stuff either. Some of these allegations go back to the early 90s.
Yeah, it's a long history.
It's important to note that a lot of these lawsuits were filed right before the deadline.
What deadline?
The one set by the New York Adult Survivors Act.
Oh, right. I bet most people don't even know what that is.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
Basically, this act temporarily lifted the statute of limitations in New York.
Meaning,
if you were a survivor of sexual abuse,
you could pursue legal action even if it happened a long time ago.
even if it was past the normal deadline.
Exactly. So this act had a huge impact on the timing of these lawsuits against Combs.
I see. So we're talking a lot of different accusations here. Men and women.
Right.
Adults who were minors at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Allegations of underage sex grooming. Even a leaked video that appears to show Combs assaulting Ventura.
Yeah, it paints a pretty disturbing picture.
It does. And it's important to say that Combs has denied all of this.
Yeah.
Saying it's all about extortion and money grabbing.
Right.
But then things escalated even further in September 2024.
Oh, yeah.
When Combs was arrested.
That's when things went from messy to legally complicated.
So tell me, what were the charges?
Well, there were multiple charges.
Oh.
Sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation for prostitution.
Wow, that's serious stuff.
It is. And the prosecution's case is pretty frightening.
Okay, how so?
They're alleging that Combs was leading a criminal enterprise.
What does that even mean? Basically, they're saying he was using threats and violence to force women into participating in these freak-offs.
So the freak-offs weren't just parties.
The prosecution is saying they were part of a calculated system of exploitation.
Hold on, we need to break this down.
Oh, we do.
What exactly was going on with these freak-offs, and how does it tie into these charges?
Okay, so first let's talk about racketeering.
Okay.
It basically means engaging in illegal activities as part of an organized group.
So like a mob or something.
Right. So the prosecution is saying that these freak-offs were part of a larger criminal operation.
Run by Combs.
Exactly. They're alleging that Combs associates would book hotel suites,
Okay.
recruit women, distribute drugs like cocaine and meth,
Ooh.
And all this was allegedly done to coerce these women into performing sexual acts.
And you said earlier that they were filming this stuff.
Yes, the prosecution says the filming was a key part of this whole system.
How so?
They're claiming that Combs and his crew would use the footage to blackmail participants into silence.
To keep them from talking.
Exactly, a way to control and manipulate them.
That's messed up.
Now, Combs' lawyer says that these freak-offs were consensual, but the number of accusers and their stories paint a very different picture.
So what happened after the arrest? Was Combs released on bail?
No, he was denied bail.
Why?
The judge cited concerns about his history of anger issues and substance abuse.
So where is he now?
He was initially held at the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Oh man, that's a rough place.
Yeah, especially considering his lifestyle before all
That's
this.
a pretty big fall from grace.
It is, and even with him behind bars, the legal troubles keep piling up.
Really?
As of right now, over 100 lawsuits have been filed.
Over 100.
Yeah, and attorney Tony Busby, who represents a lot of these accusers,
Uh-huh.
he's even stated that there are allegations of child sexual abuse.
Child sexual abuse. This is getting really serious.
It is. Can I tell you about a couple of the specific lawsuits?
Yes.
One alleges that Combs raped a woman as payback
Payback for what?
because she suggested he might have been involved in Tupac Shakur's murder.
Whoa. Okay, so that ties into some pretty dark history in hip-hop.
It does, and it adds a really unsettling layer to the accusations.
That's a pretty intense detail.
Yeah, and then there are two more recent lawsuits that are particularly disturbing.
What are those about?
One alleges that Combs drugged and raped a 10-year-old boy during an
A
audition.
10-year-old boy.
And another involves a 17-year-old who is auditioning for Combs' show, Making the Band.
Making the band.
These allegations, if true, suggest a pattern of predatory behavior that's been going on for years.
This is really heavy stuff, and it makes you wonder how something like this could go on for so long.
It does.
So what's next for Combs?
Well, the trial is scheduled for May 5th, 2025 in Manhattan.
Okay.
There's been a lot of talk about a potential gag order.
A gag order. What's that?
Basically, it would prevent the attorneys and everyone involved from speaking publicly about the case.
Interesting. Combs' family has been showing up at the court hearings, too.
It shows how much is at stake for everyone involved.
Wow. Okay, so we've laid out the timeline, the accusations, the legal stuff so far, but obviously this story isn't over.
Not by a long shot.
So in part 2 of this deep dive, we're going to explore the bigger implications of this whole thing.
That's right. We'll look at the power dynamics in the music industry, the impact of the hashtag #MeToo movement, and what this all means for Combs' legacy.
Stay tuned for that. Okay, so we just went through a ton of accusations against Sean Diddy Combs.
Yeah, a lot to process.
It is. But now I want to zoom out a little
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture.
Right, because this case is bigger than just one person.
Exactly. It makes you think about the systems
The structures in place.
that might allow this kind of abuse to happen.
Especially in industries like music and entertainment.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the music industry has a long history of exploitation,
It does a long and troubled history.
especially when you think about young artists trying to make it
Yeah, desperate for a break.
vulnerable.
Vulnerable, exactly.
And that's where power dynamics come into play.
Big time.
Because you often have this huge imbalance of power
Right.
between the people in charge
The execs, producers, established artists,
and the people just starting out.
eager to please, willing to do whatever it takes.
So it makes you wonder, is the industry doing enough to protect these people?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is, and I keep thinking about Making the Band.
Combs' reality show.
Yeah, was there something inherently problematic about that show?
Interesting question.
I mean, they pushed those aspiring artists to the limit.
This tech created this super intense competitive environment.
Did that normalize a culture where boundaries could be crossed?
It's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
think about how Combs was portrayed.
As a taskmaster?
Right, demanding, even ruthless sometimes.
The tough love approach, but like on steroids?
Yeah, taken to the extreme. And while that might make for good TV,
It does.
it makes you wonder if that kind of that power dynamic could create a climate where abuse is more likely.
Yeah, a climate where it's easier to take advantage of people.
And we can't ignore the role of Combs' wealth and celebrity in all of this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, access to top lawyers, the ability to settle lawsuits quickly, potential media manipulation.
Those are all advantages that come with money and fame.
They are, and it raises the question.
Does money buy you a different kind of justice?
Is justice truly blind?
Or do the rich and famous play by a different set of rules?
Big questions.
And this all ties into the hashtag #MeToo movement.
It does.
Because I can't imagine these accusations coming out the same way even a few years ago.
You're right. The hashtag #MeToo movement has changed everything.
It's given survivors a voice.
A platform to speak their truth.
And it's forced powerful institutions to confront abuse.
Including the entertainment industry.
But maybe even more importantly,
yeah,
hashtag #MeToo has made it easier for people to believe survivors.
To offer support and solidarity.
That's huge.
It is. There's a sense of collective strength now that didn't exist before.
So we've got this crazy mix of factors here. Power dynamics in the music industry.
Right.
The influence of wealth and celebrity.
Uh-huh.
The impact of hashtag #MeToo.
All converging in this one case.
It's mind-blowing.
It is. But it's a reminder that these cases, especially ones with big names involved, they don't happen in a vacuum. They're always connected to these bigger social and cultural forces.
That's a good point. And it makes me think about our role in all this.
As consumers.
Yeah, we listen to the music, we watch the shows, we buy the products.
We support these artists.
So do we have a responsibility to scrutinize their actions?
To hold them accountable.
Especially when there's serious allegations.
It's a tough question.
It is.
But I think as consumers, we do have a choice.
A choice to do what?
To look the other way or to demand better.
From the people we support.
From the industry as a whole.
Because our actions, our choices can make a difference.
They can influence change.
And in this case, it's about more than just one celebrity or one trial.
It's bigger than that.
What is part then?
It's about taking a hard look at those systems that enable abuse.
The ones that silence survivors.
And asking ourselves what kind of world we want to live in.
Yeah, what values do we prioritize?
How do we create a society that protects the vulnerable?
Where powerful people are held accountable.
Well said.
Okay, I think we've done a pretty good job exploring the context of this case.
I think so too.
Now I want to shift gears and get back to the legal stuff.
Back to the trial itself.
All right, let's dive into what we can expect as this thing heads toward a verdict. Okay, so we've talked about the accusations, the people involved, the whole context of this case.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But now it's time to focus on the legal battle ahead.
Right. The trial is set for May 5th, 2025 in Manhattan.
And it feels like the tension is building as we get closer to that date.
Definitely.
So what should we be watching for as this unfolds?
Well, one of the most interesting things is the debate about the gag order.
The gag order. Remind me what that is again.
It would basically prevent the lawyers and everyone involved from talking about the case publicly.
Oh, right.
Combs' legal team has been pushing hard for it.
I wonder why. Wouldn't they want to be out there defending their client?
It might seem counterintuitive.
It does.
But it's a pretty common strategy in these high-profile cases.
Oh, so?
By limiting what people can say publicly, the defense hopes to minimize any potential prejudice against their client.
Ah, so it's about ensuring a fair trial.
Exactly. They're worried about all the media coverage tainting the jury pool.
Making it hard to find impartial jurors.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
But of course, it's not that simple.
It never is.
The prosecution and the accusers' lawyers are fighting hard against the gag order.
Why?
They're saying that silencing them would be incredibly damaging.
Damaging how?
Well, for one, it could prevent other potential victims from coming forward.
Oh, I see.
And they're also concerned about the impact on public awareness.
They want to keep the spotlight on this case.
Exactly. They're emphasizing the importance of transparency and accountability, especially with these kinds of allegations.
It's a tough situation.
It is.
A real clash between the right to a fair trial and the right to free speech.
Exactly.
And in this case, it feels even more significant given the nature of the accusations.
I agree.
Okay, so putting the gag order aside for a second, what other legal strategies might we see?
Well, from the prosecution, I think they'll focus on establishing a pattern of abuse.
Using the sheer number of accusations.
Exactly. And the fact that the accounts from different people are so consistent.
Right.
They'll try to build a really strong case by showing that Combs used his power, his influence, to coerce these alleged victims.
And I'm guessing those freak-offs will be a big part of their
Well,
strategy.
absolutely. They'll argue that those weren't just parties.
Right.
But carefully planned events meant to exploit and abuse women.
They'll focus on the drugs, filming the involvement of Combs' associates.
All of that to support their argument that these gatherings were part of a criminal enterprise.
What about the defense? What might they do?
I think they'll focus heavily on challenging the credibility of the accusers.
How so?
They might try to portray them as motivated by money.
Or revenge.
Or maybe even influenced by all the media attention.
Okay.
They'll likely point out that some of these accusations are from years ago.
Making it harder to prove what really happened.
Exactly. And remember, they've been saying all along that the freak-offs were consensual.
Right, yeah.
So they'll probably try to paint a picture of Combs as someone who liked to party.
Someone who pushed boundaries.
But never crossed the line into criminal behavior.
Their goal is to create doubt in the minds of the jurors.
Reasonable doubt.
Suggesting that the accusations are false or exaggerated.
It's a classic defense strategy.
Especially when there might not be a lot of physical evidence.
Right.
It sounds like this trial is going to be intense.
It will be.
With a lot of back and forth, a lot of emotional testimony.
For sure.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
They are.
What could happen to Combs if he's found guilty?
Well, if he's convicted on all charges, he could be facing decades in prison.
Decades.
Possibly even a life sentence.
Wow. Yeah.
But even beyond the legal consequences, his reputation, his legacy, everything he's built is on the line.
I mean, regardless of the verdict, his image has already taken a hit.
It has.
And these questions about his character, his actions will probably follow him forever.
It's a stark reminder that fame and fortune don't protect you from the consequences of your actions.
No, they don't. And as we said before, this case could have a ripple effect throughout the entire music industry.
Maybe even beyond.
It could force a much-needed reckoning with power dynamics and the way vulnerable people are treated.
In all industries, not just entertainment.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. This case could be a real turning point.
A catalyst for change.
A chance to have some serious conversations about accountability abuse and our responsibility to create a better world.
This has been quite a deep dive.
It has.
We've gone from the specifics of the accusations to the bigger picture implications.
It's been a journey.
It has. And I think it's important to remember that while this story is about Sean Combs,
it's about something much bigger.
It is. It's about those systems that allow abuse to happen, the culture that silences survivors, and our responsibility to challenge injustice.
Absolutely.
And as we move forward, I think it's crucial to keep asking those tough questions.
I agree. And as you follow this case, think about how it might change the way we view celebrity culture and power.
How it might change the way we think about our own responsibility.
Exactly.
These are conversations we need to have.
They do.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better world.